We're out on the balcony. No, we're out on the veranda. Which, if you're not familiar what a veranda is, it's like a balcony, but it's downstairs. So depending on where you live, the views might be better from the balcony. But if you don't have a balcony and you have yourself a veranda, it's what fancy people have in between the house and the garden. Yeah. And if you walk out your back door, and when you step out of your kitchen, and you step straight onto your lawn, then you haven't got a veranda. But you shouldn't feel too bad about yourself, about anything. What was a fox flying by? Not an actual flying fox, like a fox on the grass, chasing what looked like to be a crow, or it might have been a magpie. So we mowed some of that lawn today. There's a lot of lawn, man. There's like 2 acres of lawn. And we mowed. When I say we, I'm saying I did. Here's the fox again. It's going back and forward. I mowed about an acre, but I was faced with a grueling adventure of trying to start this lawnmower, which is called the Craftsman, which apparently is like the home brand of a Husqvarna. And the Husqvarna, I'm told by the men in the shop, apparently is like the Ferrari of ride-on lawnmowers. It comes from, well, it sounds like it comes from Germany, doesn't it? It might come from Germany, it might not come from Germany, I'm not really sure. But I've got it's basically the same thing without the fancy label on it. So I've got like the black and gold version of the Husqvarna. That's the home brand version in Australia. So you can buy a can of tuna with John West on it for $5, or you can buy a can of tuna without the John West label, and the label says black and gold, and that costs about $2. And they say it's supposed to be the same, but there's very few items in the world that say home brand that are actually as good as the top quality stuff. And I doubt the home brand black and gold people have their own fleet of tuna boats that go out every morning. So I can only imagine what kind of... Well, what's the motto for John West is, it's the fish John West reject that make John West the best. So they must just give all the other fish that they reject to black and gold, and they put them in the tuna. Anyway, I haven't had tuna in a very long time, but I've got the Husqvarna black and gold tuna ride-on lawnmower. And about a month ago, the battery went in it, so I couldn't start it. So I went and bought a new battery from the lawnmower shop, and I put that battery in, and it still didn't start. And at this point, when things are, and I'm a 39-year-old man, but at this point, I call my daddy. My dad's a 71-year-old man, or maybe a 72-year-old man, but he moves like a 60-year-old man, or maybe even a 55-year-old man. If you can hear those little footprints, that's Wilco, the Jack Russell, and he's now eating some of that freshly cut grass and vomiting it back onto the lawn. And for some reason, he's doing it right in front of me, stretching. And yeah, it's a lovely sight. He has his arsehole in my face, and I can hear him vomit the grass back onto the lawn. Good work, Wilco. So I called my dad. He came up, had a look, and he said it might be the fuse. And he had a box of little fuses. These are special men. These are special men that walk around with boxes of fuses in their cars. And they have tools and spanners and ropes and pliers and hammers. They're like serial killers who do good. Instead of the BTK killer, they're the gentle fathers who put up with their son's bullshit, even though he's nearly fucking 40 years old. So he came up. Oh, there's a Willy Wagtail on the lawnmower now, and he might be doing a shit on the lawnmower. But my dad came up anyway and put the fuse in, and he started the lawnmower 3 times, and then he said, right, it's ready to go. But it was raining. I couldn't use the lawnmower, so I said, right, I'm going to do it the next day. I should call this episode Lawnmower Stories, or The Lawnmower Man. There's a terrible movie called The Lawnmower Man, which has a really great scene in it, where they hire this lawnmower man who has like an IQ of 50, and he's basically an imbecile, but they give him this job to mow the lawn, and he mows the lawn of the house of a doctor, like a scientist, genius scientist, and the scientist puts him through some kind of program or training. I can't remember, it was so long ago. And there's this one great scene where the lawnmower man, he gets smarter and smarter and smarter, and then he says, "You realize, doctor, my intelligence is now greater than yours." And I can relate to that, because I'm waiting for that day as a father for my children, and I think that day might have already come, to be honest. My children are only 9 and 13, but I think it's already come. They didn't have the courtesy to articulate it as beautifully as the lawnmower man who had reached enlightenment stage. So anyway, today was the big day, the big lawnmower day. I hadn't mowed this lawn in over a month, and the grass was about, I don't know, it was nearly a foot high in places, which is 30 centimeters if you don't know what a foot is. And if you don't know what centimeters is, it's about the distance between your shin and your knee, depending on how tall you are. Yeah. It's about the length of a swan's neck, regardless of how tall you are. Yeah. Or it's about the height of a car tire, regardless of how tall you are. So I went out this morning, and when I say went out, I don't mean I went out into the world. I just went outside the house, because I do like being in the house. It's very nice. I don't mean the house is very nice inside. The house is okay, but I like being in the house. That's what's nice. But the house is nice too, especially in the colder months when you can light the wood fire. It's lovely. But I went out anyway, and if you do all of the lawnmower in one hit, it takes about 3 hours riding around on this machine. So it's a big commitment, and I've been living here now for about 4 years, maybe 5 years. I think I have a reluctance to admit how long I've been places, or how long I've been doing things, and I think that is a reflection. That's a smaller reflection about death. I really do. I really think so. Because in reality, I think I moved here in 2014, and it's 2020 in a couple of months, which means I'm coming up on 6 years. But in my head, it's like, no, it's only 4 years, because that's more comforting, because it takes the fact, like 6 years is closer to 10 years than 4 years is closer to 0 years. And you've only really got, oh my Lord, if you're lucky, you've only got 7, 8, 9 decades of good living, maybe 10. Frightening to think of. I did it the other day when my sister came to visit from Hobart, and if you don't know where Hobart is, it's it's this small island off. It's in Tasmania, which is a small island off the south west. It's the southeastern coast of Australia. A beautiful place, but it's thousands of miles away from where I am, which is on the southwestern coast of Australia, in a very small town called Albany. It's a beautiful town, a beautiful spot, but it's very, very far away from where my sister is, where my son's auntie lives. So she came over to visit them. She's got herself a gypsy jazz band at the moment. I think the band is called the Jane Morris Quartet, and there was 5 people in the band, I think, at one stage, but they still call it the quartet. I'm not sure. Maybe they hid him behind the double bass. But they came over and played some gigs, and they visited their nephews, And they left yesterday. And it was always an emotional thing when family members leave. They come to visit, but then they leave. And my youngest son, who's 9 years old, was saying goodbye to his auntie, and there was cuddles, and there was, I was love you, and I miss you, and I can't wait to see you. And we're going to go see them again in January. Now it's October. It's early October. And my youngest son and my sister had worked out that it was going to be 3 months until they saw each other again. And me, like the person that I am, I'll reserve judgment on myself. But like the person that I am, I said, no, it's only 2 months. And they both looked at me and were like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, it's October now, so it's only really November, December, and then you'll see each other in January. And then my youngest son did the maths in his head, the clever man that he is, and he gave me the actual number of days that it was going to be. And it was like 90 days, or it was 100 days, or whatever it was. And again, I was refusing to acknowledge that it was actually 3 months. I was like, no. You don't count the month you're in. You don't count the month that you're going to see each other. You just count the months in between. It's going to be 2 months. So again, there was like this. There was a propensity to warp reality in a very Victor Frankl way, which I'll get into that a bit later. But in a it's a way of perceiving reality and thinking about what it is, how it is that you're going to see the world. Well, I may as well just get into it now. Victor Frankl says that in between stimulus and response, which is a fancy way of saying in between what happens to you and how you respond to what happens to you, he says there's a little space. And in that space is your ability to choose your response. And in that choice lies your capacity for growth and freedom. So if someone comes along and pokes you in the eye, that's the stimulus. So your response can be to poke them back in the eye, to give them a big whack and knock them out, to take them down to the ground, to run away, to go and get a gun, come back and blow their head off, to get an eye patch and buy the person a drink and get into the whys and why not that you got poked in the eye, to examine your life and the reasons why someone would want to poke you in the eye. You could do all sorts of things. You could go home and any kind of response. So you get to choose how you respond to every situation. And in one sense, it's very good because it means you don't have to necessarily, you're not at the mercy of reality. You are the creator of your own reality. And it's not to say that you enter into a delusional space. You try and enter into a truthful space. It's all about how you think about things, all about how you see things. But it is interesting, at what point does your response to the stimulus, at what point is it healthy and creative to think your way out of difficult situations, like, say, for example, saying goodbye to an auntie or a loved one or whoever, and acknowledging the fact that I'm not going to see you for 3 months? Or is it better to say, well, it's only 2 months because we're not going to count the month we're in, and I'll see you early in the month when we're going to see you again. So at what point does your response, it gets back to this idea of life being a long and a short game. You have to live in the moment, but you also have to live in preparation for, hopefully, lots of moments. And you also have to live honestly. Oh, that's getting into things. Who knows? Who knows if you do have to live honestly? But it was very similar in that sense. It was similar in that sense where I'm saying, I've only been here 4 years. Well, really, Adam, it's closer to 6, which means that's 2 years closer to the end of whatever finite number of years that you have. And maybe it is better for my youngest son and his auntie to acknowledge the fact that it is 3 months, that it is 102 days or 93 days or whatever the number was, that it's not 2 months. Maybe it is better. Maybe that is better, just to acknowledge exactly what it is. But anyway, I started the lawnmower today. We were starting the ritual. The ritual of the lawnmower, because it takes 3 hours, you have to load up some serious either music, podcast, or talking book. So the options were, I have an old school dictaphone that I'm not talking into now, even though it might sound like it. That's got a few of my favorite playlists that I put together. It's got Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian on it, and it's got actually I think that's all it's got. No, and it's got a Sturgill Simpson album on there as well, Sailor's Guide to Earth. So I made sure that my dictaphone was loaded up, had enough battery for a few hours worth of mowing. And then the other very essential part of spending 3 hours on a lawnmower riding around cutting lawn, whether you're listening to Sturgill Simpson or Cormac McCarthy or a playlist that you put together a few years ago and you still love, it's good to get a little bit drunk before you get on that machine. Because the only thing worse than being on a ride-on lawnmower for 3 hours listening to a Cormac McCarthy audiobook is sitting on a ride-on lawnmower for 3 hours listening to a Cormac McCarthy audiobook completely sober. So I poured myself a few beers, I poured myself a few whiskeys, and while I was doing that I was sending a few messages, writing a few emails, watching a few videos, and I was ready to go. I was watching the weather, the rain was holding off, it was all going well. My dad had come up and put the magic fuse in and started the engine the day before, and I was because it had been so long, because it had been over a month, there was a part of me that was actually quite excited to get on there, because you do feel a little bit like Forrest Gump when you're on the ride-on mower. And I've had friends, actually Tom said it, the last person to say it, he said when he pulled up to the house one day while I was mowing the lawn, and he said, you actually look like Forrest Gump. Now there's not just the lawnmower, the ride-on lawnmower there, because when I get on the ride-on lawnmower, I like to wear a baseball cap, which I don't usually wear, and I also like to wear a suit jacket. So, you might think, well, Adam, you kind of sometimes look like Forrest Gump anyway, whether you're on a ride-on lawnmower or not. So I had the suit jacket on, I had the baseball cap on. Well, there's 2 kids now. What are these kids doing? There's 2 kids on BMX bikes, and there's an RAC tow truck coming. It's a fairly quiet street, so when cars or kids come by, it's a little bit exciting. The kids are wearing Spider-Man outfits and carrying plastic bags. It's not Halloween, is it? It's not even dark. Couldn't be Halloween. I think Halloween's the 31st of October, and I think it's only the 10th, or the 11th or the 12th. Maybe these guys are getting in early. The RAC truck's pulling in next door. Man, who knows what's going on. One of the kids is on a scooter with no shoes, Spider-Man outfit, and a plastic bag. And the other one's on a Spider-Man outfit with a yellow bike, and he's got a plastic bag. Wonder what's happening there. I don't have any lollies for them. Anyway, doesn't look like they're coming towards the house. Nope, they're not. They're going next door, over the road. I think they're... No, who knows where they're going? I'll give them a wave. No, they're not waving back. They've been trained well. Never wave to someone who's nearly 40, who's sitting on a veranda by themselves talking into a phone. So, with a suit jacket and a baseball cap on. So I went out this morning anyway. I had a few whiskeys, I had a few beers. And then I went outside and I went to turn the lawnmower on. I sat on it, because you have to sit on it. There's a safety feature. Oh, Jesus, the kid's coming this way. Oh, he's delivering something. All right, he's putting something in the letterbox. Oh, good for them. Oh, that's fantastic. So that's like the opposite of Halloween. When they come to the house and you give them shit, today they're coming to our house and dropping off some shit. Okay, that's fine. And I went out, sat on the lawnmower. There's a safety feature with ride-on lawnmowers. You have to sit on them while you start them. And then what happens is if you're flying around on the ride-on lawnmower with too many beers and whiskeys, and you tip it over, when you leave the seat, then the lawnmower shuts off by itself, which is a safety feature. Because if the lawnmower is on the side and you're or upside down on top of you, then the blades at the bottom are still flying around. And if the chances are, if you're drunk underneath it, the person that's coming to help you is also probably a little bit drunk as well. The last thing they need is to fall into spinning blades. So I sat on it, got it all happening, and then turned the key, and absolutely nothing happened whatsoever. So that was a bit disappointing. So I'm there, a little bit drunk. I've got my earphones on, my dictaphone's in my pocket, I've got the suit jacket, and I've got my baseball cap, and I can't hear anything. There's nothing. The engine's not going. It's not even turning over. And I didn't want to call my dad, because I'm nearly 40. I'm nearly 40, and he's 72. And there definitely comes a point where you just don't want to be calling your dad to say, hey, Dad, can you come help me out? Even if he's an expert in that field that you're asking him to help you out. And he could be a chef, and you could be trying to make a souffle. There comes a time where enough's enough. You have to stop calling your old man. So the first thing I did was I called my dad. And I said, look, did that lawnmower start for you yesterday when you were up here? And he said, yes, it did. And he has a very thick Dublin accent. Very, very thick Dublin accent. So he said, yeah, blinking sure it did. Three times. So I said, wow, it's not starting for me. Nothing's happening. So he said, try and jump start it. So I brought my car up next to the lawnmower because the lawnmower couldn't go anywhere. So I drove the car next to the lawnmower, the ride-on lawnmower, flipped the bonnet of the car, flipped the bonnet of the ride-on lawnmower, attached both of the, the black to black and the red to red, positive and negatives together, sat back on the chair because you have to sit on the chair, otherwise it won't activate, sat back on the chair, turned it, nothing happened. Nothing. Dead. Called the old man back. Dad, nothing's going on here. What's happening? Nothing's happening. Did you do this? Yes, I did. Did you put the red against the red? Yes, I did. Did you put the black against the black? Yes, I did. There's another four-wheel drive passing by. Family of four in it. Going for a drive. And he says, right, I don't know. I said, look, I'll come up in an hour and I'll see what's happening. And I said to him, no, don't come up in an hour. I said, listen. I said, relax. It was like, it's noon. It's noon on a Saturday. I said, relax. I said, look, why don't you come up tomorrow? Do whatever you're doing today. I don't want to put you out. And he said, no. Let's get the work done. It'd be good to see that lawn get cut. Very old school Irish Catholic work mentality. There's any chance his son is going to do some work, he's behind it fully. And let's not leave any windows open for procrastination of any kind. And then he said, all right, listen, Adam, listen, try this. And it was like what followed was like something out of out of a Rick and Morty episode. And he said, all right, what I want you to do, he said, I want you to put the 2 cables on the car battery, and then I want you to put one of the cables, the black cable, on the lawnmower battery. But then what I want you to do is lift up the bonnet, because the battery's under the seat, lift up the bonnet, and then I want you to clamp the red cable on the bolt sticking out of the starter motor. Now, he'd lost me at lift up the bonnet and the seat. So after he explained what they were, and then I had to find the starter motor. But the problem was the leads were only, both ends of the leads were only a few inches of give. So I couldn't have the black cable on the battery under the seat, and then the red cable, 1.5 feet or 100 or 45 centimeters away, or 18 inches away, or 1.5 tires high away, or 1.5 swan necks away. I couldn't have that. They couldn't reach because they wouldn't split apart. So then my dad, who's like a philosopher king mechanic, and he thought for a little bit, and he said, right, all right, this is what we're going to do. First of all, he said, I'll be up in an hour. And then he said, no, okay, this is the plan. He said, what I want you to do, I want you to clamp the black mouth of the lead anywhere on the machine that's metal. And then I want you to stick the red one, I want you to stick that on the screw that goes into the starter motor. So you can pick any metal. And he said, now listen, when you put that red clamp on that starter motor, on the bolt that's going into the starter motor, he said the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to shit yourself. And I said, am I going to get electrocuted? Is this going to kill me? Because as a father, I mean, I have to be honest, as a father myself, there is such a burden of worry and responsibility and care, but mostly stress and worry about your children, that there is an element that if they had a terrible accident and died, after the grief, there would come an element of relief. Oh my God, I don't have to worry about so-and-so anymore because he killed himself while trying to jumpstart a lawnmower by clamping different parts of jumper cables onto random parts of the engine. So, it could be in the back of my dad's head, or that's what it went through my mind anyway. So he says, clamp the black one anywhere on the engine that's metal, which is most parts of the engine is metal. So I clamped the red clamp on to some part of the engine. I wish I'd be able to tell you what part it was. I have no idea. And then, with his words ringing in my head that when you touch that red one, you're going to shit yourself. Oh, and when I asked him, am I going to kill myself? He said, Adam, it's only 12 volts. I'm not Nikola Tesla. I've got no idea if 12 volts is that gonna kill a man? Is that gonna turn on a light switch? I don't know. I've got no idea. Is it gonna kill a light switch? Is it gonna be enough for an oven light? Is it gonna be, who knows? I don't know. Anyway, I was assured by my father that it was only 12 volts. So I clamped on the black one, and then I put the red clamp onto the screw going into the starter motor, and it was like a scene. It was like the first scene from Back to the Future 1, when the car hits 88 miles an hour for the first time, and just before it transports from the present into the past, when the car starts to crackle and the lightning starts to rip over the car and the stars start to burst on the side of the car and the electricity starts to take over that's kind of what happened. And I nearly did shit myself. And the only thing that stopped me from shitting myself was the forewarning I got from my father, and the fact that the lawnmower itself burst into life. And there was a primal satisfaction and laughter that came out of me after that engine just came to life, because I didn't use the key at all. I said, what about the key? Do I have to turn the key? And he was like, yeah, he was a cross between Rick and Doc from Back to the Future. And it was almost like he said, Adam, where we're going, we don't need keys. And I didn't know you could start a fucking lawnmower or any engine by just literally, it's the EKG machines, when they just stick those paddles on your chest and burst you into life. So, needless to say, the lawnmower happened. I had my suit jacket and baseball cap and was ready to go. The whiskeys and the beer were kicking in nicely, and I had there was a celebration. With the fact that over the phone I didn't have to disturb my dad's day too much, and now I'm sitting on the veranda watching a couple of dodgy kids put pamphlets about probably soccer shoes into the letterbox, but they got to enjoy half a cut lawn as they were doing it.